Well, good evening and welcome. I hope that you had a fantastic weekend doing all of the things that make you the happiest with all of the people that you love the most. You deserve that. As it's designed to do, of course, the media, the propaganda machine of the Jew, has been spending the entire weekend in its 20-second news cycle trying to make you forget about how we're just a few weeks removed from what might be the most obvious, most egregious, most disgusting, in-your-face, broad daylight cover-up in recent memory, perhaps in all of American history. The Trump White House, Pam Bondi's DOJ, Kash Patel's FBI, they just decided, you know what, we're going to just lie right in the face of the American people and tell them that the Epstein story was just a hoax. Yeah, that Jewish pervert, he wasn't trafficking girls. He wasn't compromising or blackmailing high-ranking government officials or politicians throughout the West. He wasn't working on behalf of Israel. There was definitely none of that going on. Everything that you ever thought that you knew about Jeffrey Epstein was a lie. It was all fake. So the very same politicians and government bureaucrats who are on tape raping and sacrificing children in soundproof rooms on Epstein Island are now telling you it never happened. To say that this is an insult to our intelligence would be an understatement, but what's even more insulting is that people are going along with it. And for those who just aren't quite there yet, right now there's a retread of this old story that's very obviously being used to rope them back in. To take the heat off of the Oval Office, the White House, to reinvigorate the disenfranchised, disgusted MAGA voters whose population is exponentially growing, by the way. All glory to God Almighty. So over the past several days, we've seen this huge resurgence in media coverage surrounding people like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and John Brennan and Jim Comey, along with others that were involved in illegally spying on President Trump's 2016 campaign. You remember that, of course. It was called Spygate. So these people, yes, are obviously criminals. But so is Donald Trump. And if you're paying attention, you should probably be reminded of the fact that when you see Donald Trump trying to shift attention over to the blue criminals, the Democrats, the lunatic left, and away from the red criminals, the conservatives, the Republican, the GOP, which is exactly what he and those in his orbit are trying to do right now. In fact, we're even hearing that Trump is about to begin mass arrests, not of pedophiles, no, of his political enemies. And according to this viral X post over the weekend, that's already happening. This post, which was made by a now suspended account called Julian Assange News, claims that, quote, panic erupts inside FBI headquarters. Trump activates secret military tribunals. Federal buildings are bleeding insiders. Senior FBI figures are vanishing, escorted out in silence, no cameras, no statements. The purge has begun. This isn't politics. This is a decapitation strike on a criminal intelligence regime that's operated above the law for decades. Trump isn't draining the swamp, he's gutting it with military precision. Sealed indictments are now action orders. Over a dozen high-ranking FBI officials tied to anti-Trump ops, J6 persecutions, and foreign surveillance have been removed without warning. End quote. Yeah, none of that ever happened. And it's not going to. Don't you remember back during Trump's first term, we all kept hearing of all of these so-called reports that Hillary Clinton had been secretly taken to Guantanamo Bay and that John Brennan was about to be put on trial for treason? Barack Obama was on his way to join Hillary at Gitmo. Adam Schiff, he met his maker. He was begging for his life. The original execution method didn't pan out or something like that, so they just had to use a silver bullet, one single bullet to end Schiff. We were told over and over again that these people were going to be marched out of Washington, D.C. in orange jumpsuits. They were going to be put on trial, convicted, and sentenced to death. One of Trump's top campaign slogans was Hillary for prison, but of course that never happened either, and it's not going to. So this story, these so-called mass arrests, it's QAnon level BS. Yes, all of the people mentioned in that post and a whole lot more of them are criminals. They're treasonous traitors to the country and to the American people. Nobody here at this network, nobody on planet Earth would dispute that. Everybody knows that. But here's the thing. So is Trump. All of this gutting the swamp talk, it's fake. It's a distraction. It's some guy sitting behind his computer, pumped full of hopium and wishful thinking. Or he's a subversive. Or he's paid. He's an actor. Or maybe it's AI. Who knows? Whatever the case is, it's fake and gay. It's a hoax to take your eyes off of the cover-up, the real cover-up that's playing out in D.C. right now. The cover-up for government pedophiles, whether they're in the White House, specifically the Oval Office, in Congress, in the courts, sitting at home, pulling a nice taxpayer pension after spending their entire adult life ripping off the American people as an illegitimate member of an illegitimate government. All of these people belong in prison, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat. Whether they're linked to the Spygate story or to the Epstein story or to something else entirely. The highest levels of the United States government are occupied by subversive criminals and pedophiles. It's just the way it is. And the longer that the American people allow narratives to be shifted and molded to fit the political whims of the day, as long as they allow these people to remain free, walking around with impunity, it's not going to stop. They're not going to investigate and go after each other. They're coming after us. They're spying on us. They're trafficking the children of people from families like ours. Ian Trottier has done a lot of research and writing about the Spygate story. He's got a book out on it. He joins us now to share more on this. So, do you agree? I mean, is this just one big distraction?
Yeah, Stu, thanks for having me on. This is what we're seeing is in my view, it's a dialectic. This is the classic Hegelian dialectic. The criminal here in all of this, regardless of political theater, what side this is happening on, build up the left, build up the right, the yin, the yang that this country's been experiencing over the past many decades, and we've seen it climactic almost in the past since Bush, Obama, then Trump. This kind of back and forth. In my view, in my opinion, as people read the stuff that I've been writing about, this is all international economics, right? And it's all hinging behind the veil of the private Federal Reserve Central Bank. This is big corporations, big money that the U.S. and its economy is subservient to. So I completely agree with you. What I'm getting at here is this, and High Stakes Treason, Stu, is the name of the book. It meticulously goes through the years of 2009 and 2013 and the shenanigans that John Brennan schemed on the American people to enrich himself. This is what Pete Santilli is calling the quote. It'll be the hottest story on the planet, according to his research, and he's dug up a lot on Brennan. Bannon.
Two ex-NASA engineers just created a portable AC that is making old, expensive models obsolete. Power companies don't want you to find out about this. This new portable cooling system can drop a room's temperature by up to 30 degrees in just 90 seconds. And the kicker? It uses almost no electricity. It's smaller than a toaster, cools any room in 90 seconds, and uses just a fraction of the energy of a regular AC. This incredible invention was built by two engineers.
When the book came out on the 22nd of July, said it was the most meticulously timed release of any book in the history of publishing. It came out, Stu, the same day that Trump was sitting in the office with the Filipino president, and he called out Obama for treason. I completely agree with you that both sides have criminals. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The point here is this, and this is why this book not only is so timely, but in my opinion is so incredibly well positioned to get some damage done. And I make no mistakes about it. I'm going to do everything that I can to get this person indicted in court and convicted. If I am successful, right, he will be convicted of treason, and according to the Constitution, that would require the death penalty. That's one of the requirements for it. That would be what I would push for. So coming back to 2009, coming back to what readers will find in the 430 pages, over 100 pages of appendixes. That means White House visitor logs, SEC documents, the ethics waiver that Norm Eisen signed off on, giving John Brennan, quote, the ability to go back and look at the Norway bombing and stating that he no longer had financial interest. I'm moving around for readers, but what we're looking at here is John Brennan committed very heinous crimes on the American people to enrich himself through the former corporation that he was the head of called the Analysis Corporation. Now, the Analysis Corporation was a government contractor that basically surveilled terrorist movement globally. What we know now through high stakes treason is that he allowed various bombings, terrorists to enter the country. And let me read this to kind of sum things up. Right now in 2025, Russian hoax is the big topic. You're talking about Epstein, but the Russian hoax in regards to high stakes treason was just the tip of the iceberg. John Brennan, the man who greenlit visas for 4 of the 9/11 hijackers and failed to stop the Boston Marathon bombing, somehow climbed to the CIA director. So he was the advisor for the Homeland Security, and then Obama placed him as the director of the CIA. Brennan was the architect of the Russian collusion smear. That's 2016. And with Matt Gaetz the other day, I have a FOIA out to get a recording of that meeting that happened in the White House with these people that colluded to scheme this hoax. That's December 9th. That should be on the skiff through the Joint Chief recording. That should have been recorded. But Brennan was the architect of the Russian collusion smear. He weaponizing the U.S. intelligence to frame a sitting president, manipulate public opinion, and protect entrenched deep state power. He helped funnel the Steele dossier into the FBI and pushed false narratives into the media, all while knowing the evidence was fabricated. This is your former head of the CIA. This is one of the most powerful people, not only in America, but one of the most powerful people on the planet. This is the man that the deep state, very critical for listeners to understand. This is the man that the deep state, the non-American entity that, according to me, I will tell you, operates behind the veil of the private Federal Reserve Central Bank. The deep state trusted this individual to commit its crimes, a U.S.-born American, right? And we know he was a self-proclaimed communist. He was practicing Islam. Under his watch, that is John Brennan, terrorists walked into our country, and in his hands, intelligence agencies became tools for political warfare. Instead of protecting America, he undermined it, committing acts of treason unmatched by any domestic enemy in our history. I mean, this is so heinous. This person killed Americans to enrich himself financially through the Analysis Corporation, through the stocks, and he has false official statements. There's 20 false official statements that we draw from in high stakes treason. He told Rachel Molinaro of the ethics office that he would be transferring his 401k into an IRA that would have liquidated the stocks that he previously and at that time held in TAC, the Analysis Corporation. He failed to do that. There was a name change from the Analysis Corporation called to Sotera Defense Solutions. Those stocks remain in his account. And so what we allege in the book and what we show through those filings of the SEC is that $50,000 mark that he had when he took that appointment under the Obama administration, having allowed 3 various bombing attacks to occur, and that would have started with the underwear bombing Abdulmatalov at that flight that he took from Amsterdam to Detroit. That bombing, the Norway bombing with Anders Breivik, and then the Boston Marathon bombing. Those 3 key bombings that we talk about in high stakes treason, his $50,000 stock value would have shot up to just shy of $5 million. And here's the fact here. Here's the fact. I mean, yes, that's a crime in itself because he's given false official statements saying that he sold that stock. He didn't sell the stock. It didn't liquidate. He remained in his account. We have those SEC documents. And furthermore, he's like I said earlier, he's allowing the terrorists to enter the country. And what absolutely blows my mind is once this starts to peel back, because obviously I don't work for the U.S. government, I have no interest financially at any element, at any level of the government. I'm not privy to any of the information in the book. There's nothing classified. It's all declassified open source intelligence. this is, these aren't just kind of following somebody else's breadcrumbs to kind of go down the old path of building up the right and then let the left take over. What we're talking here is something completely independent. And if I can get this push to Tulsi Gabbard, which I'm doing right now, if I can get Kash Patel, which I'm doing right now, if I can get some of the other people, and then all the people that listen to you, people like you, can start talking about this, we're going to hold this person accountable for his crimes. There's absolutely no reason that we cannot and should not. We have it all documented. What's critical here for listeners to understand is that this information was all compiled by a former FBI analyst. His name is mentioned in the book. Initially, when I'd met him and he came to me, because I do a podcast too. It's called Discussions of Truth. You may recall in Vegas, you joined me. You were on that, but I started it in Miami in 2016. Nobody was listening to him. People were calling him nuts. They were calling him crazy. He spent many years compiling this information. It cost him his job. He submitted a tip to his former employer, the FBI. They scoffed at him. And I took it upon me to help push that information out. So what readers will find in High Stakes Treason is a collection of primarily his work. I'm simply serving as author because he has a conflict of interest with the FBI. They would have confiscated his work. He had to find a neutral, independent source, such as myself, to get this out to the masses. It's published by Bombardier Books. That's an imprint of Post Hill Press. Post Hill Press has published Mark Shaw, who's done research on a woman named Dorothy Kilgallen tied into the JFK assassination. Post Hill Press has published Kash Patel, American Gangsters, and a number of, including Miranda Devine, a number of incredible authors. So they have published this work known as High Stakes Treason. But what's very critical here is that readers understand that, yes, this is my work. Yes, I've authored it. But the majority of the information, all the analysis is coming from a man that spent 12 years in the FBI, did all of his research, documented all of his findings, and came to me asking me to author it, put my name on it. And he's mentioned in my introduction, in so much that I've also given a commemoration certificate that the FBI awarded him. The FBI gave him an award for his research. This man is highly intelligent. He's OCD.
If your eye doc said there's nothing to help your failing vision, you need to see this.
This Harvard spoon trick helps restore the God-given 20/20 vision you were born with in just weeks. Here's why. Take a look at these two men, both veterans, both former pilots, both 67 years old. So why can one still pass his flight vision test and legally fly a jet, while the other can barely drive at night anymore? It's not because of age. It's not a genetic thing either. It's actually a light sensor problem 90% of eye doctors miss. See, the human eye has around 126 million light sensor cells. These cells collect different kinds of light, red light, green light, and blue light, which the brain then combines to make.
He's covered all of his tracks, so that's what readers are finding in High Stakes Treason. We're getting some great reviews at the moment. People are obviously blown away. It's a lot to understand. It's a lot to kind of grasp and understand. Because I mean, it's really shocking. I think more and more Americans are realizing there is indeed a deep state. This person, unfortunately for himself, allowed himself to commit these very treasonous acts on his country because he was what I call, and what my intel sources notified as a penetration agent. So educated at Fordham University, spent time in Indonesia, spent time in Saudi Arabia. There's absolutely no doubt about it. He was the conduit. He was the vessel that the deep state used to accomplish their goals. And pulling way back, and I mentioned this to Steve Bannon on War Room. I think it kind of caught his people off guard. What we're looking at here is a complete effort using the Obama administration and his philosophical approaches to government. We see this right now with this guy Mondami, he's a communist, and the Democrats have pointed him to run for mayor in New York. What happened with John Brennan and the Obama team is that the deep state used clear communist sympathizers And this effort here, when we pull back and we see the shenanigans that Brannon allowed to happen domestically on our country, on our citizens, just like you said, of victims like you and me and everybody else watching and reading this, we are the victims. We have allowed this disgusting apparatus. We've allowed our government to come to this place. It's time that we take it back. It's time that we hold them accountable. But the Second Amendment is at play here, right? So this war on terror, one of the end goals here is to make us unable to defend ourselves ultimately, right? I mean, that's what happened under the Mao Zedong regime in China and China. I'm not saying that the United States does not have this massive military, but they certainly do not like guns in Americans' homes that they can protect themselves with, i.e., I'm going to knock on your door, I'm going to mandate the vax on you, and knowing that you are unable to shoot me in the head, I'll come in with my
all of
syringe
that
and
is
force
stuff
this
that we've
on
been
you.
talking about here for a very long time. Obviously, they want you fat, lazy, unarmed, and controllable. How did that miss Steve Bannon?
Well, I didn't relate. That's a good point, Stu. I didn't really relate it to and I'd been scattered in my thoughts and my presentation. I wasn't given really the opportunity to get into it like I have with you to make that equation. Where we left off with Steve was I'm likely going to bring, at least he suggested it, I suggested it at some point. It is likely that my intel source will join me to help explain some of these things to Steve. I'm not sure that it missed him. I think he just kind of wrapped the conversation up before I had a chance to explain.
It happens. It's TV. I understand that. I have my opinions about Bannon, but I want to talk to you about your opinions and why you think that the John Brennan conviction and ultimately death sentence, because that's what goes along with treason, do you really think that that's going to occur? I mean, if you think about the insurmountable pile of evildoers and bad actors and criminals that have run through this government of ours, is there irrefutable, indisputable, inarguable evidence against Hillary Clinton? Yes, of course there is. And against all kinds of household names that we could discuss here. But for the sake of time, why John Brennan do you feel like this is actually going to be carried out? What makes you optimistic about that?
Well, the timing is pretty interesting. So when this fellow approached me about 2 years ago at a CPAC in Maryland, he gave me this binder. The binder is now published. It's this is what the book is, High Stakes Treason. As I'm flipping through the binder and again, remember this guy, his wife called him crazy. His whole family called him crazy. The FBI had fired him years prior. His private contractor, the company he had been working for, fired him for submitting a tip to the FBI. So he'd gone through the ringer, right? He'd had a death sentence. I took the time to look at the book, to look at the information, and it resonated with me. It made complete sense to me. What I found, of course, was the need to push this as far as I could and as fast as I could and as hard as I could, because I know that the information that he compiled is a critical piece of showing the American people that the government's been hijacked, and it's time to hold people accountable. Now, this was 2 years ago. When I looking through the binder, Stu, I said to him, he's sitting down at my podcast table, and I says, wait a second, this is treason, right? So 2 years ago, I'm talking about treason. Now, I initially had approached General Flynn about writing the forward to this. Flynn looked at it and said, I'm really busy right now. So he initially agreed to write the forward, which is interesting, Stu. Maybe it just kind of came off the top of his head, like, yeah, I can do something real quick. And then I'm assuming he looked at it and he backed off and he says, I'm real busy right now, I can't do it. And I was at an event in Florida where I approached Roger Stone. I initially approached Roger Stone not to write the forward. I'd approached Roger Stone to simply just give a blurb about his thoughts on John Brennan and the material in the book. And he got into it. He texted me back within 24, 48 hours. And he asked to write the forward. He says, you should have me write the forward to this. And I had a guy named John Kiriakou, and that forward's in the book. And I had another guy named Brooks Agnew that had already delivered the forwards, and I was waiting for Flynn to contribute his forward. So I wasn't even keen on having Stone write the forward, but then I thought about it, and I said, okay, yeah, let's go for it, because I'm not going to wait around for General Flynn to write his forward. And if you're interested and willing, Roger, let's do it. Write the forward. So he's He's written the forward to this. But you will find, of course, people talking about treason, and this was about 8 months ago. That was 7 months ago, I suppose, that I was initially talking to Roger about this, and so the word treason was kind of circling in a small group of people regarding John Brennan. It certainly wasn't mainstream. We go back 3 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, and now the word treason is echoing, it seems, through the Donald Trump halls of D.C. So now that word has become a catchphrase. It's being talked about on the big media stations. It's being mentioned with, of course, not only Brennan but Obama and these other players. Now, I don't have a whole lot of information. I can tell you I don't have any information on anybody but Brennan. What I can focus on, what I have information on, and again, nothing is classified. What I have information on is John Brennan. So what I can do is I can push that information out and get it to people and make sure, right? So it's within at least my personal power to make sure that this person, that these code word compartments, so that's a critical phrase for people to understand. This is what John Brennan was able to manipulate in the X-Keyscore, a software controlled by the NSA. He had access through the National Counterterrorism Center. He had access to create these code word compartments, which is what he used to hide the intelligence, the terror intelligence, hide these people entering the country. We have got to push, and I will continue to do everything I can to get Tulsi Gabbard to open up those code word compartments, which are now sealed, to open those up, show that John Brennan used this unwitting kind of pawn. His name is Michael Jones. He was the analyst working at the NSA in the National Counterterrorism Center. He was using Michael Jones as that cover for that code word compartment. I will do my work to push Tulsi Gabbard to open up that compartment and show and prove that John Brennan ordered this malfeasance on the American people. And once I do that, of course, that's going to be all the evidence needed to convict him in a court. Right now, preliminarily, he's got to be indicted, and I know there's indictments coming down. These people are getting their federal federal access revoked, their intelligence access revoked. I am concentrating on John Brennan to make sure he is held accountable.
Stop paying your credit card debt. It's a waste of money. How do you think the rich stay rich?
I can't speak for the other people, but I can certainly speak for myself. Now, it's going to be up to the people that have the authority to open up some of this intelligence that has been closed. It's up to them to open it, but I will do everything that I can within my power as an independent, right? Like you, Stu, as an independent voice, as an independent American, knowing that it's up to people like us to take back the country. We can no longer allow these other people to do it for us.
Including the people that have given themselves the authority to open investigations and to prosecute these people. I mean, I believe that it's treason to withhold assistance and aid to people who have been pummeled by weather based on the fact that they won't properly support or bow down to the modern state of Israel or the Jew. Donald Trump wanted to do that before there was a whole bunch of public pushback. Then they just delete the line item. That doesn't mean that their aspirations have changed. Roger Stone called me crazy because I said that Israel is controlling our government. So all of these people, they all have a hand somewhere in some cookie jar that's really great for their self-preservation and advancement, whether it be politically or financially, economically, of course, their pulpit, their platform, their influence, and their access to orbits that you and I just don't have access to as, run-of-the-mill, everyday, ordinary Americans, right? Hardworking people who just want our country to be taken back. But I think that the entire apparatus needs to come crumbling down. If John Brennan is part of that, if your book can help to get John Brennan executed after conviction, of course, the Rolling Stone's going to go nuts because here I am, again, calling for the death of high-ranking or previously high-ranking government officials. Yeah, that's actually... There's a precedent for that. Yes, I am calling for the restoration of the rule of law in this country. I've been doing that for quite a long time. So anyway, I mean, I think that if John Brennan is convicted and executed, that's a great place to start. Where can people find this book?
Stu, they can find it on Amazon right now. If people go to highstakestreason.com, there's links right there. It'll click them over to Amazon. They can buy it in Kindle format. We're working on an audio format. They can buy the paperback. I think Amazon's shipping it out within like 3 days. So if you go and find it right now, you can click it, order it. I think you have it in about 3 days. If you're interested in following some of the things that I'm working on, my Twitter is real Ian Trottier, and then I put a lot of stuff up on Instagram as well. But yes, right now it's on paperback through Amazon, and High Stakes Treason is the website that I'm running.
Real Ian Trottier. You can find him on Twitter. Is that? Oh, and then you've got the underscore in there, correct? I just want to make sure that I have the right X account before we put it up on the screen. But here it is, High Stakes Treason. You can order it now. You see the banner there. I showed you the Amazon link. Go to highstakestreason.com to get Ian Trottier's book, High Stakes Treason. Do you agree with what I'm saying? I mean, I understand that you're focused on John Brennan.
Yep.
For our audience, do you agree with the things that I'm saying, that obviously, as this may be a stepping stone, that we've got a lot of work to do, including in the White House, including in the Oval Office, including with the Trump administration, and possibly even Trump himself, as far as treason is concerned?
Stu, there's no doubt about it. And let me mention that in 2015, I'd gone to a pre-candidacy rally at Doral of Donald Trump. My girlfriend at the time was a Harvard graduate, very liberal. She went with me. And one of the things that
you
spoke
picked great
to both
girlfriends.
Of us, what's that?
So you picked great girlfriends.
Yeah, I've had luck with women. Yeah, that's for sure. No, but one of the things that spoke to us, both of us at the time, it was that he said if he ran for president, he'd run as an independent and he'd be self-financed. Now, for me personally, I was a Ross Perot supporter. I liked Ross Perot for those main reasons, that he was independently wealthy and he was running as an independent. That means pulling away from the swamp that controls both political apparatuses. Well, of course, what we know is that Trump aligned himself with the GOP. And my thought back then in 2015, this is before I even started the podcast in Wynwood, now known as Discussions of Truth. My thought at that time was, okay, what deal has he made? He's made some type of deal with the financial strings of the GOP. They've convinced him to run under their ticket. He's aligned them. I've met him very briefly in a sense. I've never had dialogue with him. He called my good friend, the Google whistleblower, Zach Voorhees, he called him an American hero. He had some nice things to say about me, but I've never had dialogue with the man one-on-one. So I can't really begin to tell you who's controlling outside of what would be the obvious things, the big money that's controlling him. But yes, we must. It must be, in a sense, a revolution, peaceful.
You know, the guy took $200 million from Miriam and Sheldon Adelson. You know that he's got hundreds of millions more in big-time private donors from Israel. I mean, you know that.
We know that. We know that. So it's a matter of dissecting. Dissecting Rothschild, and that's why, Stu. That's why I always talking about the Federal Reserve. There's a book that I
so I mean, I guess that's my whole point, is that we're relying on what you've written.
Yeah.
And I haven't read it. So full disclosure, I haven't read it. What you've described as what you have written should be an open and shut case. Brennan should be an open and shut case. Clinton, Obama, they should be open and shut cases for crimes against humanity, for crimes against mankind, for crimes against our country and its people, for traitorous treason, high crimes
That's right.
of treason against our country. They're not going to investigate each other. For the same reason that Pam Bondi, when she was the Attorney General of the Sunshine State in Florida, while Jeffrey Epstein was running one of the most prolific child trafficking operations in all of American history, perhaps all of human history, she refused to investigate him, because if she did, she'd go around and get her friends arrested. So these people that were asking to investigate themselves, at the FBI, you have Dan Bongino, who said that what he's most passionate about is protecting Israel. And so then you've got Kash Patel, who's a proven liar, who is in charge of the FBI. Can we really rely on the current law enforcement apparatus at the federal level in this country to actually investigate their own and then convict them and then carry out sentencing against them? I've got 30 seconds, final words.
Yeah, what they can rely on are voices like us. What they can rely on are independent citizens like you and I, Stu, that are going out and taking the fight to their throats. And I'm not talking physically. I'm not talking in a violent way. But I will push this to the very brink. I want this man convicted. I'm going to do everything that I can to take him down. That's what America can rely on.
Well, until we have realized the extreme accountability in this country that, I mean, it's really the only way. It honestly is. I mean, we could talk about so many different political solutions. We can talk about, and there are some political solutions that we could talk about. And we could talk about violent solutions. People only respond in certain cases to the use of force. That's why police officers go through use of force training, because there's a lot of black criminals that don't respond to, hey, put the gun down, please. And then they have to be shot. So there are those people out there, and I believe that those people are among our government. So, I mean, we could discuss a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is, until these people actually face the accountability that they rightly deserve, we cannot move forward. We're not a serious country if we're not executing people who commit treason in our country.
No, that's exactly right. And that's why this individual, we must make an example of this person. The Constitution calls for the death penalty. He must be put to death. He's got to be convicted, obviously, as you'd mentioned.
I support that. And I think that as I'm running out of time here on a network break, we went 10 minutes over. I had to blow through one of them. There's Ian Trottier. I agree with that sentiment 100%. Until we start executing people who commit high crimes of treason that detrimentally impact America and her citizens, we are not a serious country. More next on The Stu Peters Show. Get the book.